Okay, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to talk about how you can take a few basic chords and transform them into a standalone solo composition, something that you can play by yourself without a jam track. This works on an acoustic or electric guitar, and it works in any key once you understand the principles of what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to talk through my thought process for what I played in the intro. We're going to break it all down note for note, and you can see that once you visualize the chords, this is the whole point of this lesson, is being able to visualize them. Once you can see the chords, then you can pretty easily work in a simple little melody line to connect those chords. And that's what this whole thing is. It's all about visualizing. It's really not, deep in theory. There's none of that. It's very simple process to do. And it's kind of like putting together a puzzle. Once you can understand the process, it's a lot of fun to do. And you can do this with any chord arrangement that you've got once you understand sort of how to do that. So I'm going to talk through everything over the course of 2 videos. So in this video, we're going to go through the first half. If you'd like to join me for the part 2 video, where I'll go over the second half, and then also you can download the tablature and access the on-screen tab viewer, which is interactive, video tab on the screen at the same time. There's no talking in it. It's just me playing through the song, which you can slow down the playback, you can loop through sections. It's a really great way to learn. You can get all of those extra materials by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP572. Okay, so this guitar is a 1961 Gibson ES335. This is the newest guitar to my guitar tribe here. I'll put a video up on the screen that I just made of me going to pick this guitar up. So if you have interest in knowing a little bit more about its history, you can check that out. But anyway, I just thought it was cool that the guitar now is going to be able to live on. It had been sitting under a bed for years and years, and now it gets to live on and show up in videos and teach people how to play. What a cool legacy. I just thought that was so neat. Okay, so let's talk about this song. So the song is played in the key of A, and it's really just a few basic chords. In this video, it's kind of like 3 chords. Believe it or not, it's like an A chord, that's our 1 chord. Then we're going to play the 2 chord, which is a minor. Whoa, that's a B minor. And then we're going to go to the 5 chord, which is our E7. And that's kind of what we're going to be working with. That's the structure of it. All chords from the key of A, so they're all in the chord family of the key of A. Let's listen to the first part, this first little idea, and then we'll talk about what's going on. Okay, so it starts with this. That's the first little idea we're going to talk through. Now, the song, as I mentioned, is played in the key of A. And so this first idea is coming out of my A played up here. That's where you bar on the 5th fret, and this would be the E shape. So everything that I pretty much do on the guitar all comes from the caged system. That's just the way that I think about the fretboard for scales, for chords, for everything. And I'm going to put up 5 lessons on the screen right now for those of you that want to know more about these shapes, as I call them out. So this is the E shape we're talking about. If you want to do a deeper dive on any of those shapes, you can check that out. And it's got everything: major chords, minor chords, arpeggios, all of that stuff. So you can check that out if you want. But this is the A chord from the E shape. And it starts with my A note down here, 7th fret, 4th string. And then I come up to the 4th fret, 3rd string, 5th fret, 3rd string, and then play the open 5th string, which is my A note, and play this. and then I played the chord. So I'm not playing a full bar, I'm just playing the top part of that chord. That's where I bar the first 2 strings on the 5th fret, middle finger on the 6th fret 3rd string, ring finger on the 7th fret 4th string. So I'll play it like this. So I go. Okay, now these first notes are really just coming out of the A major scale, or A major pentatonic scale, depending on how you want to look at it. But I'm playing chromatically because I'm going like this. That note is not in your A major scale, but it's a note in between your 2nd and your 3rd interval of the scale. So you can kind of hit that note as a passing tone. You don't land on those notes, but you can hit them, and that's called playing chromatically when you do that. So we've got my A chord, and then I'm going to hit the 1st string, and then watch this. My pinky goes down on the 7th fret 2nd string to create that sound. Now what I'm doing here is I'm creating this. Let me just show you the melody idea that I had for this. The melody was like this. Hear that? If I were to boil it down to one note, it's... Now this is super common in music. You'll hear this. It actually, the idea I had for this, or at least I think where this came from, was Harvest Moon by Neil Young. Now he plays that in a different key and does some different stuff with it, but it's the same principle of your root note. You play the 6th chord, that's your 6th interval of your major scale, and then you play your 7th interval of your major scale along with the chord, and you get that major 7 dreamy sound. So that was kind of the vibe I was going for. Now I didn't sit and write that out or plan it out. I could just sort of hear it as I was fumbling around with chords in this area. Another reason I don't like doing a full bar chord is because I've got my pinky free to experiment. I can do that and get that sound, or I can do this and get the flat 7. Right? That dominant blues sound. You can get all kinds of sounds by keeping one of your fingers free to sort of play around while the other notes of the chord ring out. That's another little idea. The last little idea I'll throw at you for those of you that are learning how to write compositions is, now, when I started this, I just started right on the 1 chord, which isn't what I usually do. Typically, I'll start on the 5 chord. You create a little bit of a tension, and then you release that tension. That's a classic way to start a song, or you start with a turnaround, and that resolves back to the 1 chord. The other point I'll make about this guitar is I've got a tremolo on this, or a whammy bar, some people say. You don't have to have that. If you don't have one, just ignore it. You can use a tremolo pedal if you want, or you can just use a hand vibrato, or you can just skip it and just let the notes ring out. That's not the point of this lesson. The point is knowing where the notes come from. Okay, so now's where the song goes to that A major 7 chord, and I came up here. Isn't that cool? Now, it's the same sound as if I'd played it here. But the reason I came up here was because I had this idea in my head. To walk it down to the 2 chord. Now here's the one little piece of theory. I don't mean to confuse anybody, but when I'm playing up here, I'm playing a minor triad. I'm playing a C sharp minor triad with an A in the bass. When you put that A in the bass, you get a major 7 sound. If I put the C in the bass, then I get a minor chord, right? So it just depends on the note underneath it or the chord underneath it to give it its color. So by playing a C sharp minor chord on top of an A chord, you get that major 7 sound. So then I walked it down like this. So this is all played out of my 2 chord, my B minor chord, and I'm playing it here where I bar on the 7th fret, and this would be like my E minor shape. You can see these 2 fingers are making what would be the E minor chord in first position. But when I made it, I played it like this. So I left my pinky out of the equation so that it can do those things like I was just talking about. It can go and play a little bit of a melody line there. Now when I play these little embellishments off of this chord shape, I'm not thinking about scales and what note needs to go with what and any of that. I'm just thinking about little ideas that I've used over and over again. That's really it. And ideas off of chord shapes. This is the key. So look at this chord shape. So this would be like out of my E shape, but we've got the minor version. And my pinky is free to come up here and play 9th fret, 1st string. Then it can come down to the 10th fret, 2nd string. Then it can come down to the 9th fret, 3rd string. And then it can come down to the 9th fret, 4th string. That's just a little pattern I've memorized. So what are those notes? If I think about it, I guess that would be like B Dorian. But I don't think of it that way. I've just memorized this little pattern that I can do off of this E minor shape here, right? I hope you see what I'm talking about. That way you're not calculating, you're not always having to think about the scale and all of that. It just gets kind of exhausting. So to me, when I'm playing out of this chord shape, I've got this idea, I've got this, and those are little ideas that I use over and over again. So when I played it, it goes like this. Okay, so now after that, the song goes to the 5 chord, which is my E7. And so what I did was I went to get into the E. So it's another embellishment off of that B minor, which gets me to the E. So to do that, I'm barring the first 4 strings on the 7th fret, and I'm playing strings 4 and 3. Do a hammer on to the 9th fret, 4th string. And then I come down to this note, which is the 3rd interval of my E chord. And I know that but I've just sort of memorized it off of the shape. So I'm thinking about this shape, which is like my E7 chord using the C7 shape. There's my C chord, right? I put my C chord shape, sorry. And then I put my pinky down on the 7th fret, 3rd string. Play the middle 4 strings, I've got an E7. So by playing that note, I know that that's the 3rd interval of that chord. And so what I did then to finish the chord was I came up here and really hit an E9. Isn't that a pretty sound? So that's where you make your little shape here, which is actually the same shape as your D7 chord in 1st position, but you've got your middle finger on the 7th fret, 5th string. And then your pinky can bar on strings 1 and 2 on that 7th fret. Now if you can't do that, just hit the 2nd string like that. Now the next line is kind of a Chet Atkins sounding thing, which is a harmonized 6th thing. I love this. And let me show you what I'm thinking about. I'm picturing this. Remember, we're playing over the E part of the song, right? So I'm thinking E stuff. So here's an E chord using the A shape from the Cage system, right? And notice when I'm playing that, I've got one finger up here on the 9th fret and one finger on the 7th fret. That's that 5th string of 7th fret. And that's making my E major chord. And so where I've got my bar here, and I use my pinky for that, some people use their ring finger. If I were to just play strings 2 and 4, that's where that harmonized 6 comes from. So now you can connect it to the chord, right? So there's my E chord, oh yeah, that's where that little harmony lives. And what's cool is, remember how I said I've got one finger on the 9th fret, one finger on the 7th fret? I can use those same 2 frets as like anchors to go between for that harmony. See what I'm doing there? So it's really simple. It's just strings 2 and 4. And that walked it down chromatically. There's that step in between. And then I came down to this, where I've got my index finger on the 5th fret, 2nd string. My middle finger is on the 6th fret, 4th string. And that's the rest of that little phrase. And look at where these 2 notes are coming from. Ah, that's my E7 chord, right? Just strings 2 and 4. So I hope you're seeing those now. Okay, from this chord and this chord, that's an E7, that's an E, that's my C7 shape, that's my A shape. I've got this little, but that's just coming out of those chord shapes. So from here, I played this, which is the rest of that chord. And then the song would go back to the one chord, the A chord, and I played this. That's barring the first 2 strings on that 5th fret. And then hammering on to the 6th fret 3rd string, the 3rd interval of that major chord. And then after that, a little fill lick. So that's a little major pentatonic scale lick in the key of A. That'd be like pattern 2 of your A major pentatonic scale between the 5th fret and the 7th fret on the 2nd string. There's a hammer-on pull-off, 6th fret 3rd string, and then back to that 5th fret 2nd string, and then I hit my E7 chord, right? So there's the tension again. We're going back to the 5 chord. Now watch this part. This is definitely something I probably stole from Chet. So I did that off of the A chord. I want you to just picture this. This is just a harmonized 3rd. You take that up 2 frets, and then you come into this shape. Now this, that first lick, I just think of this A chord using the E shape. Then you go up 2 frets, and then you come up here to the 9th fret, bar the first 2 strings, and you hammer on with your middle finger to the 10th fret 2nd string. And these 2 notes are out of my A triad. See? It's just the A triad here, which would be like the top part of the C shape, or it'd be part of the D shape. This whole triad is in both of those. But anyway, that's what's going on. And then I hit the open 5th string to sort of make sure we're on the 1 chord. You can really define it that way. And then after that, I lifted my middle finger and just hit strings 1 and 2 on the 9th fret. And those 2 notes, to me, they represent that major 7 sound, right? They're in that. You've got that flat 7. All right, so after this, then I played this. A little kind of fill lick, and that's coming out of the A major scale, just the key of the song. And to play that, I come up to the 11th fret 3rd string, and then the 9th fret 2nd string. So I go, and then down to the 9th fret 3rd string, and then 11th fret 4th string. So those notes are coming out of the A major scale, but I'm up here in the C position. So if I played my A chord in the C shape and played here, my A major 7 chord in the C shape would be right here. My A major scale in the C shape would be here. So these notes are just coming out of that A major scale in that position. So that's what this is to me. It's just marrying your scale up to your chord shape in different positions. Then you can play a chord and a scale that goes with it, and you can connect it all. So that'll be your challenge. Okay, there's a major 7 chord, got that. Now you can play your major scale along with it. So you just kind of practice going back and forth between a chord and a scale if that's what works best for you. That's kind of how I did it anyway. Then I came down here to the 2 chord and played. And that's just really walking up the chord. It's really an arpeggio. So it starts here on that 9th fret 4th string, and then I play 3, 2, 1, strings 3, 2, and 1 on the 7th fret. And then down to the 10th fret 2nd string. So we hit that note, and then we're back into this bar here on the 7th fret. Strings 2, 3, and then back to the note we started with, 9th fret 4th string. And all of those notes work because of what I said before. Remember I said off of this minor chord, I just know these embellishments. So I've got them connected in my mind to the chord shape. So when I played this, that's all I was doing, was doing exactly what I talked about before. All right, so this last little phrase for this first part is interesting. So what we're doing chord-wise is we're going from the 3 chord, walking it down chromatically, to the 2 chord. So see that 3, go down a half step, go down another half step, and then we go to the 5 chord, which would be your tension chord, and then back to the 1. Right, so remember this in the future for a great turnaround. This is used in the blues all the time. Then your 5 chord, back to your 1. You can do different variations on the 5 chord. And when I just listened back, what I played was this. Instead of the 5 chord, I used a substitution. I played this, which was a diminished 7 chord. That's another whole lesson I'll have to get into at some point, but that little arpeggio came out of that diminished 7 chord. It's a really cool sound. Let me show you what I played though. So now that you know what's behind it, which are those chords, this will all make sense. So picture this C sharp minor chord up here using the E shape, and we're gonna play strings 4, 3, 2, and then my pinky comes up here as an embellishment to the 12th fret 2nd string. Now watch this, we're gonna slide everything down. Do you see what just happened there? That was just the chord, but I went up and then I played it in reverse. So I go. In fact, you can slide that. And then I came down to my B minor chord and played it like that. The bar there on the 7th fret, strings 2 and 3. And then we come down to the 4th string and play 9, 7. And then watch this. This is where we go into this diminished 7 chord. It's an arpeggio of it. So it's 6, this is on the 4th string, 6th fret, 9th fret, and then 7th fret, 3rd string, 6th fret, 2nd string. Now just get those notes under your fingers. Practice that over and over again, because you're gonna use that a lot if you like the sound of this diminished thing. It happens a lot in music. Right? So what's cool about diminished chords and arpeggios are you can always take the same arpeggio and move it up or down 3 frets and get the same effect. So what's nice about this one is when I get to this note, I just resolve to the A, to whatever note's closest to, within that A chord. And so it just happened to be the 5th interval. So. Right? Now if I came down here and played that same arpeggio, I could come down 1 note and resolve to the 3rd interval of the chord. It's kind of cool. So anyway, that's what's going on with that. It's just a diminished 7 arpeggio that resolves to that 1 chord. You could play the 7 chord. That's another tension chord. It's just a different kind of tension. So I could have done that. That's that E7 arpeggio. That works, but that sounds a little jazzier to me. And then I just played the A chord. And I did a few little embellishments with my pinky off that 7th fret 2nd string. Kind of like that. And I'm gonna wrap up this part 1 video there. That's a lot of information. Come join us in part 2 where we have this whole other part with some interesting kind of chord arrangement. I think it's kind of interesting anyway. So we'll talk through all of that in the part 2 video. If you like this video, leave a comment below. I always appreciate them. Even if it's just something that you found helpful, actually share what you found helpful. That is super helpful to me and to other people. So if there's one little part that resonated and some little idea that you hadn't thought about, I love knowing that stuff because it gives me ideas for future videos. And if something isn't clear, you can let me know that too, and I'll try and respond to either way. I do read all the comments, so. All right, we'll see you in part 2.